2 to 4 hours of sleep per night for 30 years. In 2014, court testimony revealed that Ramzi Yousef, the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, sleeps only 2 to 4 hours each night. His world, 75 square feet of concrete. No human contact. No windows. 23 hours a day. Every day. For 3 decades. You might think this is about one terrorist getting what he deserves. It's not. This is H-Unit. A prison within a prison. Where approximately 40 inmates live under conditions a British judge called worse than Guantanamo Bay. Where the US Attorney General, not a court, decides who gets buried alive. Where prisoners are force-fed through nasal tubes up to 200 times for refusing meals. And here's what they don't tell you. The number of prisoners under these restrictions jumped from 16 to 51 after the 9th of November. Most are Muslim. Some haven't been convicted of anything yet. And once you're sent to H-Unit, there's no clear way out. By the end of this documentary, you'll learn why one prisoner wrote a 250-page essay the government will never publish. Why federal judges ruled these conditions unconstitutional, but nothing changed. And the one truth about H-Unit that threatens the entire justification for its existence. This is the story of special administrative measures. The executive order that allows total isolation without trial, without evidence, without end. The psychological experiment hidden in plain sight, 100 miles south of Denver. And the men who are slowly losing their minds inside it. But first, you need to understand how America built a torture chamber and called it administrative measures. ADX Florence opened in November 1994. Built in response to the murder of correctional officers at other federal prisons, it was designed as the end of the line. The place where the most dangerous inmates would be neutralized through isolation. But ADX isn't one prison. It's 6 different security levels, each more restrictive than the last. General Population Units. Control Unit. Special Security Unit. And at the very top of this hierarchy of isolation sits Range 13, a 4-cell wing where meals are delivered without physical contact, cell doors open remotely, and the cells are darkened and soundproofed. A former warden called ADX a clean version of hell. He also said living there was far worse than death. But even in hell, there are deeper circles. H-Unit is where the government sends inmates deemed threats to national security. According to a 2017 report by the Center for Constitutional Rights and Yale Law School, it's been described as the darkest corner of the US federal prison system. Here's what makes H-Unit different. Every single occupant is under what's called Special Administrative Measures, or SAMs. These restrictions are ordered directly by the US Attorney General. They go beyond standard solitary confinement. According to the regulations, SAMs can limit who you call, what you read, who visits you, and even what your family can say about you to anyone else. The restrictions are reviewed annually. But former inmates report they've been renewed for decades without explanation. Without hearings. Without any clear path to removal. As of June 2024, approximately 40 inmates at ADX are under SAMs, according to Bureau of Prisons officials. But the real number has fluctuated wildly. In November 2001, only 16 federal prisoners were under SAMs. By 2009, that number jumped to 30. By 2017, it reached 51. What happened? September 11, 2001. Special administrative measures weren't invented after the 9th of November. They were created in 1996, following the Oklahoma City bombing. The regulation gave the Attorney General power to restrict prisoner communications when there's a substantial risk of death or serious bodily injury. But after the 9th of November, everything changed. The regulation was expanded. Due process protections were weakened. And SAMs became a counter-terrorism tool. According to legal filings and court documents, SAMs were now being used not just for convicted terrorists, but for pretrial detainees. People who hadn't been found guilty of anything. Attorneys interviewed for the Yale CCR report described how prosecutors used SAMs to break defendants, forcing them to plead guilty just to escape total isolation. One thing became clear. SAMs weren't just about security. They were about control. But the real question is this. What does it actually feel like to live under SAMs? That's where the story of H-Unit truly begins. H-Unit cells are 75 square feet. Slightly smaller than standard ADX cells because they don't have showers. According to court testimony, inmates are escorted to shower facilities several times a week, though lockdowns and staffing issues often disrupt that schedule. Inside these cells, communication is almost impossible. The cells aren't soundproofed like Range 13, but they are designed to prevent conversation. Former inmates and attorneys report that prisoners resort to yelling through drain pipes and air vents just to hear another human voice. One attorney described visiting H-Unit as visiting a tomb. The only sounds, ventilation systems, the shuffle of shackled feet, the occasional distant shout of someone trying to maintain their sanity. Communication with the outside world is even more restricted. According to the Yale CCR report, H-Unit prisoners get one monitored phone call per month to pre-approved family members. All mail is read and often redacted by the FBI. Magazines and newspapers arrive with articles cut out. Books must be individually approved. Multiple former H-Unit inmates report waiting months for letters to be cleared. In one documented case, a prisoner couldn't send condolence letters when 3 of his uncles, his grandfather, his aunt, and his cousin all died within 6 years. The message was clear. Even grief had to be approved by the federal government. What can you read in H-Unit? According to court documents and prisoner testimony, the FBI decides. A former inmate reported that the first several issues of The Nation magazine were cut from 50 pages down to 15 to 20 pages. All articles related to politics were removed. The same happened with the Atlantic Monthly, Time, and Newsweek. One inmate's request for a World Almanac was rejected twice. The FBI's reason, certain information in it could be used for terrorism. Ramzi Yousef, according to his attorney Bernard Kleinman, receives USA Today newspapers 1 month after publication. News items about terrorism are cut out before he sees them. He's not allowed to watch news channels. His understanding of current events comes in fragments, delayed by weeks, censored by strangers. The effect is deliberate. You're not just isolated from people. You're isolated from time itself. The world moves forward. You don't. Perhaps the cruelest aspect of SAMs is what they do to families. According to the regulations, immediate family members who visit or speak with SAMs prisoners must sign agreements. They cannot repeat anything the prisoner says to anyone else. Not to other family members. Not to friends. Not to journalists. Not to human rights organizations. In effect, families become extensions of the Bureau of Prisons. They are gagged by the same rules that gag their loved ones. Mohammed Salameh's family visited him at ADX just once, in 2012, the year after his father died. His mother came with one of his sisters, whom he hadn't seen since she was a child. According to investigative journalist Aviva Stahl, when Salameh spoke about that visit during an interview, his voice trembled. It was the only time he became emotional. One visit. In over a decade. That's what the government determined was necessary to protect national security. In 2019, a British district judge refused to extradite WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to the United States. The reason? SAMs. The judge ruled that if Assange was subjected to special administrative measures at ADX, the conditions would be so severe they might drive him to suicide. That ruling exposed something the US government doesn't like to discuss. International observers, including the United Nations, have compared SAMs to torture. The World Medical Association has publicly opposed force-feeding hunger strikers. Medical ethics experts say the practice violates prisoners' bodily autonomy. But here's what most people don't know. The Bureau of Prisons has been force-feeding H-Unit prisoners for years. According to investigative reporting by Aviva Stahl and testimony from attorneys, prisoners in H-Unit have staged repeated, sustained hunger strikes since at least 2005. Their demands? More phone calls. The ability to write to their children. Relief from 24-hour isolation. Mohammed Salameh went on hunger strike 5 or 6 times over a decade. According to his own account, he was force-fed approximately 200 times. The procedure involves inserting a tube through the nostril, down the throat, into the stomach. Medical professionals described it as excruciating, especially when done repeatedly and punitively rather than for genuine medical care. Salome knew the risks. But under Sams, it was one of the few ways to make his voice heard. The hunger strikes revealed something important. Prisoners weren't trying to die. They were trying to be heard. But the government treated their protest as a management problem. A problem that required a medical solution delivered through force. Here's how SAMs are supposed to work. A federal agency claims a prisoner's communications pose a risk. The Attorney General authorizes restrictions. No hearing. No challenge. No independent review. One judge called the process offensive to traditional values of fairness and transparency. But still, nothing changed. If the entire prison is a version of hell, then the deepest circle of hell isn't that much worse. Ramzi Yousef sleeps 2 to 4 hours a night. He has little interaction with anyone. He wrote 250 pages repudiating ISIS theology. The government has never published it. Every year, the notification arrives. The restrictions are renewed. H-Unit doesn't rehabilitate. It disappears. Right now, someone is alone in a concrete cell. No windows. No conversation. No human touch. And the government calls it administrative measures. Now you know it exists. The question is, what are you going to do about it? If you want to understand how America's most secretive prisons really operate, watch this documentary next. We're investigating the control units where inmates are held in sensory deprivation for years. Where the government experiments with psychological torture under the guise of security. The story isn't over. It's just beginning.